10 Stoic meditations to increase resilience and wisdom. Most people believe that being strong means gritting your teeth and enduring everything in silence. That resilience is just about refusing to quit no matter how much it costs you. I am here to tell you that this is one of the greatest lies you have ever been told. Real strength has nothing to do with blind resistance. It is about seeing clearly when the world around you is falling into chaos. It is about accepting what you cannot change and pouring every ounce of your energy into what you can. That is the heart of Stoicism. And while this philosophy was born thousands of years ago, I truly believe it has never been more essential than it is right now in this moment in the life you are living today. Because when everything outside feels uncertain, the only territory you truly own is the space between your ears. For centuries, ordinary people have used these principles to walk through pain, loss, and devastation without losing themselves. Not because they felt nothing, but because they learned to respond with wisdom instead of reacting on impulse. In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 Stoic meditations to increase resilience and wisdom. 10 powerful shifts that you can begin applying immediately to build a mind that is unshakable, a spirit that is calm under fire, and a life rooted in clarity and purpose. Each lesson builds on the last, so stay with me until the very end, because the final meditation might be the one that changes everything for you. And if this kind of content speaks to your soul, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss what is coming next. Let us begin. Number 1, you don't need a perfect life. You need an unshakable spirit. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself. How much of your life have you spent waiting for conditions to be perfect? Waiting for the right moment, the right circumstances, the right feeling before you finally decide to show up? Most people walk through life carrying this invisible belief that everything should go smoothly, that comfort is the default and struggle is the exception. And when things fall apart, they crumble because no one ever taught them the truth. The truth is, this life was never built to match your plans. The universe does not owe you a smooth ride. And the moment you expect one, you are already setting yourself up to be shattered. You are building your entire sense of strength on a foundation made of sand and wondering why you collapse at the first wave. Here is what separates those who thrive from those who merely survive. It is not talent. It is not luck. It is not having fewer problems. It is the decision to prepare your mind, your heart, and your soul for the storms before they arrive. You do not pray for an easy path. You forge yourself into someone who can walk the hardest road and still stand tall at the end of it. Because let me tell you something most people will never accept. The unexpected is not some rare disaster that shows up once in a lifetime. It is the very fabric of life itself. Disruption is not the interruption of your story. It is your story. And when you finally embrace that something extraordinary happens, you stop wasting your energy fighting what you cannot change, and you start pouring every ounce of it into what you can control. Your response, your mindset, your next move. Resilience is not the absence of pain. Do not confuse the two. You will hurt, you will lose, you will face moments that feel like they are tearing you apart from the inside. But resilience means that even in the middle of that fire, you do not lose yourself. You can stare into the chaos, feel every bit of it, and still choose to move forward. You do not sit there waiting for someone to hand you motivation. You become your own fuel. And here is the part most people miss. That kind of strength is not born in the big dramatic moments. It is forged in the quiet, unglamorous ones. When someone criticizes you unfairly and you choose composure over reaction. When a plan collapses and you rebuild without complaint. When you lose something meaningful and you grieve but you do not quit. Those small moments are your training ground. That is where champions are made. Because anyone can perform when the sun is shining and the crowd is cheering. That takes nothing. But the person who rises when everything is falling, who moves when the whole world says stop, that person is unstoppable. And that person can be you if you decide right now that you will never again wait for life to be easy before you choose to be strong. Number 2, master your ego or it will master you. There is a silent enemy living inside every single one of us, and most people never even realize it is there. It whispers constantly. It tells you that you must always be right. It demands attention, craves applause, and recoils at the smallest hint of criticism. It convinces you that your worth depends on how others perceive you. That enemy is your ego, and if you do not learn to master it, I promise you it will quietly destroy everything you are trying to build. Here is what most people get wrong. They think the ego is their protector, their inner champion, the thing that keeps them sharp and competitive. But that is a lie. The ego does not protect you, it imprisons you. It closes your ears to wisdom, shuts the door on growth, and forces you to live your entire life performing for an audience instead of evolving into who you were meant to become. Every time you refuse to listen because you think you already know, that is the ego. Every time you avoid a challenge because failure might bruise your image, that is the ego. And every time you measure your worth by the number of people clapping for you, you have handed the keys of your life to strangers. Think about that for a moment. If you need external validation to feel whole, you are never truly in control. You are a puppet, and the strings are held by every opinion, every comment, every passing judgment from people who do not even know your story. That is not power. That is the most dangerous form of weakness disguised as confidence. Now let me be clear. Mastering your ego does not mean shrinking yourself. It does not mean becoming small or silent or invisible. It means building a foundation of self-worth so deep and so solid that no applause can inflate it and no criticism can crack it. It means having the courage to say, "I was wrong," without feeling destroyed. It means walking into a room with quiet confidence, not because you need everyone to notice you, but because you have nothing to prove to anyone. Truly powerful people do not chase flattery, and they do not collapse under failure. Their sense of identity is not a balloon that one sharp word can pop. It is forged through honesty, through self-awareness, through the willingness to keep learning, no matter how much they have already achieved. They can look at their own flaws without shame and pursue improvement without fear. That is real freedom. Not the freedom to impress, but the freedom to be authentic. To walk through life without masks, without performance, without the exhausting need to be someone you are not. When you release the grip of the ego, you unlock clarity, peace, and a strength that no outside force can ever take from you. And only then do you truly begin to live. Number 3, failure is not the end. It is the instruction. Every single person you admire, every champion, every visionary, every leader who ever changed the world has one thing in common that nobody talks about. They all failed. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. And yet, here is the tragedy that holds most people hostage from the moment we are young. Society programs us to believe that failure means defeat, that stumbling is shameful, that making a mistake somehow proves you are not good enough. And so we grow up terrified of the very thing that was always meant to teach us. Let me tell you something that will change the way you see your entire life, if you truly let it sink in. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the path to success. It is not a wall blocking your way. It is a signpost showing you exactly where to turn next. Every single mistake you have ever made carried a piece of information inside it. Every fall exposed a blind spot you could not have discovered any other way. But if your only response to failure is shame, if you shut down, quit, or hide, then you are throwing away the most valuable lessons life will ever hand you. No one has ever grown by staying comfortable. No one has ever expanded by only doing what they already knew how to do. Growth lives on the other side of discomfort, and the entrance fee is the willingness to fail and keep moving. That is a price most people refuse to pay, and that is precisely why most people stay stuck. Now here is where the real transformation begins. When you finally understand deep in your bones that failing does not erase your value, something shifts inside you. The fear loosens its grip. You stop hesitating. You start taking action while everyone else is still calculating the risk, still paralyzed by the possibility of looking foolish. And suddenly, You are moving faster, learning faster, evolving faster than anyone around you, not because you are smarter or luckier, but because you stopped letting failure be a prison and started using it as fuel. This is the difference between those who achieve extraordinary things and those who spend their lives wondering what went wrong. It is not talent. It is not circumstance. It is mindset. The ones who go far are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who refuse to stay down. They get back up, adjust their approach, extract the lesson, and move forward with even more clarity than before. That is real resilience. Not avoiding failure, but embracing it as your greatest teacher. Because every time you believed you lost life was simply showing you a better way to win. Number 4, live as if you had already lost everything. Close your eyes for a moment and picture this. Everything you love is gone. Your family, your health, the roof over your head, the freedom you take for granted every single day. All of it vanished. Not as some morbid exercise in sufferbeans, but as a profound act of awakening. Now imagine that in an instant, every single one of those things was handed back to you. How would you see your life then? How differently would you hold the people around you? How deeply would you breathe that next breath? This is one of the most powerful shifts a human being can experience, and almost no one practices it. We walk through our days surrounded by miracles and call them ordinary. A morning cup of coffee with someone you love, the sound of laughter in your home, the simple ability to stand up, walk outside, and feel sunlight on your skin. These are not small things. These are everything. But we have been so numbed by routine, so hypnotized by what we do not have, that we have forgotten to be astonished by what we do. When you train your mind to mentally rehearse loss, not to dwell in darkness, but to sharpen your awareness, something remarkable begins to happen. The fog lifts, the noise quiets, and suddenly the ordinary becomes luminous. You stop sleepwalking through your blessings and start experiencing them with your whole heart. A conversation with a friend becomes sacred. A peaceful evening becomes a treasure. And that shift does not make you fragile or fearful. It makes you more alive than you have ever been. This is not pessimism. This is the opposite of pessimism. This is waking up to the breathtaking reality that nothing in your life is permanent, and for that very reason, everything in your life is precious beyond measure. When you truly absorb that truth, you stop poisoning your days with trivial complaints. You stop burning your energy on arguments that will not matter in a week. You stop chasing things that have nothing to do with what your soul actually needs. Instead, you begin to live with a sense of beautiful urgency, not the frantic anxiety of someone running out of time, but the deep, grounded purpose of someone who knows that every moment is a gift that can be taken away without warning. You hold tighter to what matters. You release what does not. You stop postponing joy and start choosing it right now today, this very second. That is what it means to live as if you had already lost everything. It is not surrender. It is the most fierce, the most intentional, the most fully awakened way a human being can possibly live. Number 5, what you postpone weakens you. You already know what you need to do. Right now, in this very moment, there is something sitting in the back of your mind that you have been avoiding. A conversation you need to have, a decision you need to make, a change you need to start. You know exactly what it is, and every single day that you push it aside, every time you whisper to yourself, I will do it tomorrow. You are not resting. You are slowly bleeding out your own power. That is the brutal truth about procrastination that nobody wants to face. It feels harmless. It feels like you are simply buying yourself more time. But what you are actually doing is training your mind to distrust your own word. You are teaching yourself over and over again that your promises mean nothing, that your commitments are negotiable, that you are someone who talks but never moves. And at first you barely notice the damage. But over weeks, months, and years, that pile of undone tasks, avoided decisions, and postponed changes becomes a weight so heavy it crushes your spirit from the inside out. What was once a simple task now feels like climbing a mountain. What was once a manageable conversation now feels like an impossible confrontation, because avoidance does not shrink problems, it feeds them. It gives them room to grow in the dark corners of your mind until they become monsters that paralyze you completely. And all the while, guilt seeps in, like poison, draining your energy, stealing your confidence, and widening the gap between who you are and who you claim to want to become. Let me be very direct with you. That gap, the distance between what you say and what you do, is the source of more frustration, more regret, and more quiet desperation than almost anything else in life. And the only way to close it is action. Not perfect action, not flawless execution, just movement. One step, one phone call, one honest decision. Because every time you act in the face of resistance, you win a small battle against the weakest version of yourself. And those small victories compound into something extraordinary over time. Stop waiting to feel ready. That feeling almost never arrives. The people who transform their lives are not the ones who waited for courage to show up at their doorstep. They are the ones who moved forward trembling, uncertain, and uncomfortable, but they moved. They understood that progress does not require perfection. It requires the refusal to stay still. What you do today is building the person you will be tomorrow. And what you keep postponing is silently destroying the life you say you want. So decide right now, not tomorrow, not next week, now. Because if you will not do it today, let us stop pretending you will ever do it at all. Number 6, live as an example, not as a judge. We all know someone who has an opinion about everything and everyone. Someone who can see every flaw in others with perfect clarity, but somehow never turns that same lens on themselves. And if you are honest, truly honest, you have probably been that person too. We all have. It is the easiest thing in the world to sit on the sidelines and point out what everyone else is doing wrong, to criticize decisions you did not have to make, to judge struggles you have never faced. But here is what you need to understand: all of that criticism, all of that judgment changes absolutely nothing. Being a judge gives you a temporary rush of superiority. For a brief moment, you feel smarter, sharper, more enlightened than the person you are tearing apart. But that feeling fades quickly, and what remains is a life that has not moved an inch forward, because tearing others down has never built anything. It has never improved a single relationship. It has never made you a better human being. It is wasted energy disguised as wisdom. What actually transforms the world around you is not your commentary, it is your conduct. It is the quiet, relentless decision to become the living embodiment of the standards you hold for others. When you act with integrity, even when it costs you something, when you show consistency between what you believe and how you behave, you create a force of influence that no lecture could ever match. People do not remember what you told them to do, they remember what they watched you do. And if your actions contradict your words, every beautiful thing you have ever said collapses under the weight of your own hypocrisy. Being an example does not demand perfection, it demands honesty. It demands the willingness to correct yourself quietly before you ever think about correcting anyone else loudly. It means choosing to do what is right when no audience is watching, when no recognition is coming, when the only person who will ever know is you. That is where character is forged. That is where real respect is earned, not demanded. In a world drowning in noise and performances, in carefully curated images that hide hollow lives, authenticity has become the rarest and most magnetic quality a person can possess. Someone who simply lives what they believe without fanfare, without preaching, without needing applause, becomes a lighthouse in the fog. And you do not need a title or permission to be that person. You only need a choice. Stop telling people how to live. Show them. Let your actions carry the message your words never could. Because at the end of everything, it is not your opinions that leave a lasting imprint on this world. It is the life you actually lived. Number 7. Nothing external can harm you if you don't allow it. What if I told you that the thing hurting you most right now is not the situation itself, but the story you are telling yourself about it? That the pain you carry from someone's words, from a past mistake, from a circumstance you never chose, does not actually live in the event. It lives in your interpretation of it. This is not some feel-good philosophy designed to make you smile for a moment. This is one of the most liberating truths you will ever encounter, and it has the power to change everything about the way you experience your life. Think about it carefully. When someone insults you, the words leave their mouth and travel through the air. But those words have no power on their own. They are just sounds, just vibrations. The destruction only begins when you catch those words, pull them inside, and decide that they mean something about who you are. You are the one who assigns the weight. You are the one who turns a passing comment into a lasting wound. And that means you're also the one who can choose to let it fall to the ground and walk right over it. This applies to everything. A setback at work, a broken relationship, a plan that crumbled before your eyes. The event itself is neutral. It simply happened. But the moment you wrap it in a story of victimhood, of personal failure, of irreversible damage, you hand over the keys to your peace of mind. And once you do that, you become a prisoner of things you were never meant to carry. Here is what changes everything. When you realize that your response holds more power than any external event you reclaim, something most people give away without even noticing. You reclaim ownership of your inner world. You stop living on the defensive, constantly bracing for the next blow, perpetually anxious about what might go wrong. Instead, you stand in a place of quiet authority, knowing that whatever comes your way, you get to choose what it means. This does not mean you stop feeling. You will still experience sadness. Anger will still visit you. Disappointment will still knock on your door, but you no longer let those emotions move in and redecorate your entire life. You feel them, you acknowledge them, and you let them pass like clouds crossing a vast sea. Your remains yours. And when you begin living this way, something fascinating happens. Your steadiness becomes visible to everyone around you. While others are tossed around by every comment and every setback, you remain grounded, centered, unmoved. That kind of stability is magnetic. It is rare. And it is the unmistakable mark of someone who has discovered that true strength was never about controlling the world outside. It was always about mastering the world within. Number 8, calm is not weakness. It is mastery. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced us that intensity equals strength, that the loudest voice wins the argument, that the person who explodes with emotion is the one who cares the most. And so we grew up believing that staying calm means you are passive, that choosing silence means you are afraid, that maintaining composure in the face of provocation is somehow a sign that you have given up. But I need you to hear this clearly, because it might be one of the most important things you ever learn, that belief is completely dangerously wrong. Reacting on impulse requires nothing, absolutely nothing. Any person on the planet can scream when they are frustrated. Anyone can lash out when they feel hurt. Anyone can throw words like weapons when their pride is bruised. That is not strength. That is surrender. It is your emotions grabbing the steering wheel, while the best part of you sits helpless in the back seat, watching the wreckage unfold. And in a single moment of unchecked reaction, you can shatter a relationship, destroy your reputation, or undo years of progress, all because you refuse to pause. True power, the kind that commands real respect, lives in the person who can stand in the middle of a storm and choose not to become part of it. The person who feels the heat rising inside them and still decides to respond with clarity instead of chaos. That is not indifference. That is the highest form of self-awareness. It is the ability to say, I feel this, but I will not be ruled by it. And very few people ever develop that capacity, which is exactly why it stands out so dramatically when someone does. Calm gives you something that reaction never will. It gives you the space to think before you speak, to evaluate before you act, to protect what truly matters, instead of wasting your precious energy on battles that were never worth fighting. It makes you formidable without aggression and unshakable without rigidity. People who master this understand a secret that most will never grasp. You do not need to raise your voice to hold your ground. In a world addicted to outrage, where everyone races to react before they even understand what happened, the person who remains centered becomes the most powerful presence in any room. While others burn through their energy in pointless conflicts, You are quietly channeling yours into creation, into growth, into building something that lasts. That is not sleeping through life. That is being the most awake person in it. Calm is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of control at the exact moment when control matters most. Number 9, the opinion of others does not change your value. From the very first day you entered this world, you were being trained to look around and ask, do they approve of me? Trained to scan every face for validation, to adjust your behavior based on a raised eyebrow or a disapproving glance. By the time you were old enough to understand what was happening, the pattern was already deeply wired into your nervous system. Seek approval, avoid rejection, fit in at all costs. And most people never question that programming. They carry it into adulthood like an invisible chain, letting the opinions of strangers, colleagues, and even loved ones dictate how they feel about themselves. But I need you to wake up to something right now. Someone else's opinion of you is a reflection of their world, not yours. It is filtered through their fears, their insecurities, their limited understanding of who you actually are. And yet, we treat those opinions as if they were verdicts handed down by the highest court, as if a single criticism could rewrite our entire worth. That is not just painful, it is a prison. Every time you reshape yourself to please someone, every time you silence your truth to avoid conflict, every time you abandon what you believe just because it might make someone uncomfortable, you are trading pieces of your identity for moments of borrowed acceptance. And that acceptance never lasts, because the people you are trying to impress will always find something new to judge. You will never be enough for everyone, and the sooner you make peace with that, the sooner you become free. Your value is not a stock price that rises with applause and crashes with criticism. It is fixed. It is inherent. It was yours before anyone ever clapped for you, and it remains yours even when the entire room turns against you. When you truly internalize that something powerful shifts, you stop performing. You stop calculating every word and every move based on how it might land. You start living from a place of deep inner trust instead of desperate outer seeking. Now, this does not mean you close your ears to every voice around you. Wisdom knows how to listen without being consumed. It means hearing feedback with discernment, extracting what is genuinely useful and releasing everything that was never about you in the first place. Because some people will criticize you no matter how beautifully you live, and others will celebrate you even on your worst days. Neither group gets to define your worth. True liberation begins the moment you stop building your life around the expectations of others and start anchoring it in your own values, your own truth, your own unshakable sense of self. You do not need to be flawless. You simply need to be real. And in that authenticity lies a fortress that no opinion, no judgment, and no amount of noise can ever penetrate. Number 10, you are not your emotions. Feeling is not the problem. Anger, fear, sadness, insecurity. You have felt every single one of these, and somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice told you that feeling them meant something was wrong with you, that your anger made you dangerous, that your fear made you a coward, that your sadness proved you were broken. And so you did one of two things. You either buried those emotions so deep that you went numb, or you let them take over, completely drowning in every wave as if it were the ocean itself. But both of those responses are built on the same lie, the lie that you are your emotions. You are not. And understanding that distinction is one of the most transformative realizations a human being can ever reach. Emotions are not your identity. They are messengers. They are temporary signals passing through your body, delivering information about the world around you and the world within you. They arrive like weather, sometimes sunshine, sometimes thunder, but they are never permanent. The sadness you feel this morning is not who you are. The frustration burning in your chest right now does not define your character. These are visitors, not residents. And the moment you confuse the two, you become a hostage in your own mind. Here is where everything shifts. You can feel afraid and still take the step. You can feel heartbroken and still show up for the people who need you. You can feel uncertain about every detail of the path ahead and still choose to walk it, because courage has never been the absence of fear. It is the decision to act with purpose even while fear is screaming in your ear. That is the difference between being controlled by your emotions and being informed by them. The goal is never to stop feeling. Anyone who tells you to eliminate emotion is asking you to stop being human. The goal is to observe what arises within you without being consumed by it, to stand in the center of your own internal storm and say, I see this, I feel this, but I am not this. That is emotional maturity. That is the moment you reclaim the power to choose your response instead of being dragged by your reaction. Because when you do not master this, your emotions make every decision for you. They choose your words in an argument. They dictate whether you give up or keep going. They write the story of your life while you sit passively watching. And that is no way to live. Learn to listen to what you feel, but refuse to obey every impulse that passes through you. Breathe before you speak. Pause before you act. Create that sacred space between the feeling and the response, because that space is where your true self lives. You are not the wave. You are the ocean beneath it, vast, deep, and unshakable. You are not your emotions. You are the one who witnesses them. You are the one who chooses what comes next. Everything I shared with you today is not just a collection of ideas. These are keys, and each one unlocks a door to a version of yourself that is stronger, wiser, and more free than you have ever imagined. A version that does not shatter under pressure, that does not bend to the noise of the crowd, that rises with clarity when the world around it crumbles. And here is what I need you to understand. That version is not some distant fantasy. It already lives inside you, waiting to be remembered. Some of these lessons challenged you. Some stirred something deep that you have been avoiding. And that is exactly the point. Growth never feels comfortable in the moment, but it always feels worth it on the other side. So do not let this fade into just another video you watched and forgot. Write these principles down, revisit them, practice them until they become part of who you are. Because my goal was never to inspire you for a few minutes. It was to ignite a transformation that lasts forever. If this moved, you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel so we can continue this journey together. I will see you in the next one.